Welcome to Pivot to Passion. My name is Deanna Byrne. Pivot to Passion is a podcast series documenting the journey of growth and transformation during some of the darkest times of my own life. It's also about amazing things that I connect with in my coaching business. It's about how I grew, how I recovered, and how I simply got through it. I record these podcasts in hopes that people will find strength at some of the craziest points of their life. And by allowing you to fully know that by simply falling forward, you can always get back up and brush off your knees and keep pushing forward always. Today I want to talk a little bit about bravery, courage, vulnerability, and the critics. We are in a time where online criticism, trolling, and bullying is at an all-time high. People are so brave behind the keyboard. They are very opinionated. They have no problem destroying another human being to the point of suicide. They have no emotion attached to it. The things that they say, they attack people's weight, they attack their credibility, they attack their honor. They have no problem placing judgment on another human being. And I have been in that position where I was severely bullied by a group of individuals. The reality is, people who are brave, people who will step into the arena and take on their opponent, they will act out of courage. They will do things completely out of their comfort zone. Those that will not have no right to criticize. But it doesn't take away the vulnerability. It doesn't take away the fact that it doesn't matter how strong an individual is and how much work and effort that they put into something. It takes a lot. And a lot of times they are stepping into that arena and they have butterflies and they are sweating and they are terrified and they are shaking and they are stuttering. But they're in that arena. They chose courage. They chose to put one foot in front of the other. And they got in that arena. And they took on the opponent. And whatever that opponent was. And when I say opponent, it doesn't necessarily have to mean another human being. It can simply mean taking a risk, overcoming fear, doing something that pulls you completely out of your comfort zone. We've all been there. We've all done that. Some of us grow a bit of an armor. I've always lived my life taking risks, knowing full well that my vulnerability will be exposed and I'm going to get hurt. And it's going to hurt bad. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to be angry and I'm going to have all of these facets of myself crumble onto the floor like a little doll, sobbing and crying. But I also understand that I allow myself a specific amount of time to grieve, whatever the loss is. And I get back up and I push forward. But every single time we do that as a human being, it takes a little piece out of us, right? Let's go back to the critics. The critics are the people who would never be brave enough to say to your face what they will say to somebody else about you. It gives them a sense of power. It gives them a sense of freedom. It nourishes their own soul. And I don't mean in a healthy way. When somebody chooses to destroy or attack another person, it tends to mean they are lacking somewhere within their own life. And they gain power from trying to destroy another human being. They get a sense of power by doing that. And then we throw the bandwagon effect in there, which is literally a psychological phenomenon where people are drawn to the masses because, you see, no human being ever wants to feel left out. They want to be part of something. Even if it's not being part of a healthy something, they still want to be part of something. So they will jump on that bandwagon. They will believe the lies. They will believe the untruths. They will fit within that momentum of energy to go against another human being without taking the time to really fully understand or research if the information that they are being provided are truths or are not truths, or are fabricated and stretched and so forth. They just love the feeling of being in that group, being connected to something, to someone, to a vibration and energy and movement. They don't stop and think that at the end of that movement is another human being. And that human being is a person who is brave enough to take a risk. And I see this a lot on TikTok. So many creators get on there, and hats off to creators, because it takes a lot of bravery to post a video of yourself, to put yourself out there knowing full well the trolls are just waiting to attack and destroy you. TikTok has allowed people the platform to practice their own individuality, to be their real true person, to show all colors of their amazing personalities and talents and so forth. But then there's the trolls, who tend to make absolutely no creative content themselves. A lot of times, some do, some don't. But they choose to attack and demean and destroy someone else, because it's so easy to type something on the computer and hit that little arrow. It's not as easy when you're in front of somebody's face to say it. And that is where we are in such a big way. If you have placed yourself in a position of being in the public eye, whatever that public eye position is, it might be politics, it could be business, it could be media, it could be blogging, podcasting, whatever it may be. You're coming from a place of helping, knowing full well that you will not ever gain respect and support from 100% of your audience. It is impossible. But fully knowing that at some point you will face the critics, you will face the people who are miserable and who gain power from attacking you. It is a very sad reality of the world that we live in today. And it's so predominant, and it's becoming more and more predominant because it is becoming normalized. When somebody says to you, oh, hey, you know what? You put yourself out there, so you might as well just, be prepared. But why are we normalizing accepting the criticism and not normalizing not allowing it? Why have we become and always have been a society where we normalize the victim just being strong and dealing with it, but we never ever talk about the people that cause the problems? It is a very unfortunate part of where we are in society, and I'm not saying this is brand new. It's been like that before the internet, of course. But it takes a lot of energy, like I said. If you are the kind of person who you step into your courage, you step into that bravery, whatever that situation is. Again, it doesn't have to be opening up a multi-million-dollar company. It could simply be asking the girl on a date. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but to you it is huge. And if whatever the situation is huge to you, then it's huge. And the fact that you got up and you stepped in that arena and you took that risk and you exposed your vulnerability, hats off to you. That is a big step. And knowing full well that whatever the situation is, you may lose. And understanding that with risk comes loss, with risk comes benefit, with risk comes passion, with risk comes vulnerability. With risk comes so much attached to it. And I've always believed if we don't take the risk, whatever the risk may be, how do we ever know what the outcome could have been? It could have been one of the most amazing opportunities in our life, and it also could be one of the most incredibly gut-wrenchingly painful as well. But you know what? In those moments where you feel like that pain in your chest and that pain in your heart and those deep emotions are literally ripping you apart inside, you need to stop for a moment and remember, it's not the first time you've been here. You've felt pain in your past. You have felt grief. You have felt all of these things. And in those moments where you think you're not going to get through it, you did. It might not have been easy. And it might have been dark and it might have been messy. But you got back up and you continue to push forward. I have spent my whole life with an attitude that I jump out of an airplane with a backpack full of silkworms hoping they're high achievers. Not every single project that I have worked on in my life has had a positive outcome. Some of them have had horrendous outcomes. But the reality is when the dust settles and I get rested up and I brush off my knees and I refocus and I plant my vision on the next project, I don't allow the negativity from that previous project to hold me back. I pull from it. I pull the lessons from it. What did I learn? What were my pivotal mistakes? And whatever happened within that last situation, how can I avoid that from ever happening again? And when you go into your next project, whatever it may be, you're going in with a hell of an education. You are going in with experience and commitment and knowledge that you didn't have before. And anybody that has built a successful business will tell you the theory that you learn in business school will never teach you or prepare you for the human interaction within business. It will never, no amount of textbook theory will ever teach you that. You need to learn to trust your gut instinct. You need to learn to listen. You need to learn to pay attention. And you need to understand that not every single person cheering for you is cheering for you. They are pretending to cheer for you, hoping that you will fail. So placing your trust is also something that can be a tough lesson, and it certainly was for me in my business career. I have had situations where I have placed trust in individuals that used me for collateral damage to appease stakeholders. One of the hardest things that I have ever had to swallow in my life was that pain. And moving forward and growing from that, and understanding that at the end of the day, I can sleep at night because I didn't use a human being as collateral damage. And that is the way that I had to process all of that in my own mind. I had to be able to process that those that I placed my trust and faith in had literally let me down and used me as a scapegoat. When I came to terms with that, it gave me a strength and a knowing that moving forward, all of that allowed me to fine-tune my own inner knowing, my perception, my laser focus. It taught me to read between the lines. It taught me to learn body language. It taught me to understand neurolinguistic programming so that when I am speaking or communicating with an opponent, I see things a lot differently now. So I chose that horrible situation in my life to allow me an opportunity to grow so that moving forward, when I choose to step back into another Shark Tank, I have tools in my toolbox that I didn't have before. I have a knowing and an ability to utilize all of those lessons that I've learned to bring to the table, to give me strength, to give me power, to give me confidence, to allow myself to be placed in a position in a basin full of sharks, knowing full well that I was maintaining my own composure and control. Those are the kinds of lessons that you have to pull from really horrible situations within our life. This was corporate business. It differs from personal relationships and things like that. There's a whole other different level playing field that you get to when you start getting into corporate business and multi-million-dollar mergers and acquisitions and all of those sorts of things. So it's a whole different game, but the reality is human nature is the same. The way people interact with each other is the same. There is no amount of money placed on the table that changes human interaction. And so by allowing yourself to understand and learn from situations that you are exposed to, it gives you an incredible strength and power moving forward. So by allowing yourself to show those vulnerabilities, when we open up the wound like that, look at it. I guess a good analogy would be you have a gash on your leg and the wound is cut wide open. And what happens when that wound is open? It bleeds, right? The blood washes away the dirt in the wound. It cleans it, right? So when you stitch it up, then you have to make sure that it doesn't get infected because the blood is no longer moving freely and cleaning that wound. Being open and vulnerable can be looked at exactly the same way. When you are open and vulnerable, you are allowing the exposure to allow growth, to allow strength, to allow you to become so incredibly confident and strong and knowledgeable in whatever the situation is that you're being faced with. So vulnerability is a strength. And you need to fully understand that whenever you choose to be brave, you accept there will be levels of vulnerability. When you choose to step into your own courage, to transform your life, to make choices that will give you and your family a future that you want, when you are doing that and coming from a place of authenticity and purpose and passion, and you're not choosing to hurt other human beings to get there, that is an incredibly powerful thing. It will give you an amazing, deep sense of empowerment that you've never experienced before. But you also need to step back and fully understand that when you choose to step in the arena, you will be exposed to the critics. They will say things to you that are so mean, gut-wrenchingly mean. But I want you to say one thing to yourself. Unless they are willing to step in that arena with you, they have absolutely no right to try to take you down in yours. 1% of the population has the power, tenacity, and passion to build and do amazing things. Be that 1%. Jump into the arena. Take risks. Define who you want to be moving forward and know that every single thing that you do is going to expose you. It's going to expose your vulnerabilities. Learn from that. Take every situation that you are exposed to and allow it to grow. Use your risk. Visualize it as a garden, and every experience is a seed. And your vulnerability is the water. And you are growing, and you are moving forward. And you're going to fall forward, probably more than once. But you're going to get back up. You're going to tell yourself, you can do it again, and you can do it again, and you can do it again. And most successful people quit right before they were going to be successful. Don't quit. Keep pushing. Get in that arena. Put on your armor. Face the sharks and keep pushing forward. The critics are always going to be there. Be one step ahead. Be stronger, be better, be wiser, and be braver. Thank you so much for joining me for today's podcast. I really appreciate you hanging in, and see you on the next one. Take care.